So, in the previous video, we saw about the sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So here in this video, we will start the sexual reproduction in human beings. But before we start the sexual reproduction in human beings, let us recapitulate that what we have learned in the previous video. So here we will see what are the parts we have seen in the reproductive parts in the flower, then pollination, and how after the process of pollination sexual reproduction occurs in the flower.
Sexual reproduction in plants. In this module, you will learn how sexual reproduction takes place in flowering plants. It is spring season. Flowers are blooming on the trees. It is indeed a beautiful sight. Flowers attract all of us. They are the most beautiful part of the plant, isn't it? You already know that flowers are not present only to add beauty to the plant. They are in fact the reproductive part of the plant. In the flower, stamen is the male reproductive part, while carpel is the female reproductive part. Some flowers contain both male and female reproductive parts. Such flowers are called bisexual flowers. For example, pea, China rose, etc. On the other hand, some flowers possess either the male or the female reproductive parts. Such flowers are called unisexual flowers. For example, corn, cucumber, etc. Now let us know about the different parts that make up a stamen and a carpel. A stamen is made of two main parts, anther and filament. The anther produces pollen grains. It is the pollen grain that contains the male gametes. A carpel, on the other hand, is made up of three parts. The terminal part is called the stigma. The middle elongated part is the style, and the swollen bottom part is the ovary. Inside the ovary, ovules are present. It is the ovule that has the female gamete called the egg cell. For sexual reproduction to take place, a male gamete is to be fused with the female gamete, thereby forming a zygote. Now for that, the male gametes have to reach the female gametes. For this, first a pollen grain carrying the male gametes is transferred from the stamen of a flower to the stigma of the same or the other flower. Such transfer of pollen grains is known as pollination. If the pollen grain of a flower lands on the stigma of the same flower, it is called self-pollination. But if the pollen grain of a flower lands on the stigma of another flower of the same or another plant of the same type, it is called cross-pollination. Pollination occurs with the help of different agents like wind, water, or animals. Once a pollen grain reaches the stigma of a suitable flower, a tube grows from the pollen grain. This tube travels through the style and reaches the ovary. The male gamete from the pollen travels in this tube and reaches to the female gamete present in the ovule of the ovary. After that, the male and the female gamete fuse together to form the zygote. This process of fusion of male and female gametes is called fertilization. The zygote formed after the fertilization then divides several times to form an embryo inside the ovule. The ovule develops a tough coat and changes to a seed. The ovary, on the other hand, ripens and forms a fruit around the seed. At this time, the other parts of the flower, like the sepals and petals, fall off. So, a seed present inside a fruit contains an embryo, which is actually a baby plant. Each time a seed is planted in soil and provided appropriate conditions, it grows into a seedling, which then
So here in this video, you saw that after the process of sexual reproduction in plants, the ovules form the seed and seed is then capable of producing a new plant. So this is about the sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Now we will see that how sexual reproduction in human beings occurs. So, human reproductive system. We will study about in detail about the what are the parts, what are the systems that are responsible for the reproduction to take place in the human beings. So here, as sexual reproduction takes place in the flowering plants, in the similar way, sexual reproduction takes place in the human beings, because male as well as female both are responsible for the production of a new baby. So we saw that in flowering plants also, for the production of the zygote, and from the zygote when embryo is formed, so how the process occurs? It occurs because the male as well as the female is responsible for that. In the similar way, human beings also reproduce when the male gamete as well as the female gamete fuse to form the zygote. Now, in human beings, adolescence period is the stage of sexual maturation where a person is capable for the process of reproduction. Now, we all know that a flower consists of the reproductive parts. So, definitely, a human being also will have the reproductive parts. So, those reproductive parts are present in our body, but when they mature, at that time only the reproductive phase starts in a particular human being. So adolescence period is the stage where the reproductive parts starts to mature. So what is the adolescence period? Basically, it starts at the age of 11 or 12 and it continues till 18 or 19. So this adolescence period, during this stage, a lot of changes occurs. The changes, some changes are common between the girls and the boys, and some are totally different. So during this adolescence period, the reproductive parts begin to mature, and as a result, a person is capable to reproduce. Now, when the general body begins to slow down, the reproductive tissue begin to mature, that is the adolescence periods. Now, unless and until we are in the growing period, so at that time our body is involved in the growth of our body parts. So and as soon as we reach the adolescent stage, at that time the growth begins to slow down, and since the growth begins to slow down, the reproductive tissue begin to mature. So what are the reproductive tissues? The reproductive tissues are the germ cells, that is the sperm and the egg. So they begin to mature so that the reproduction could take place. Now many changes occurs between both the boys and the girls. Some changes are common and some changes are totally different from each other. So we will see that what are the common changes, what are the different changes. So here in this picture you can see that the changes which occur in a male as well as in a female during the adolescent stage. Now the skin gets oilier, and if we consider the male now, see first, in male the skin gets oilier, means pimples due to the oiliness of the body parts, it starts getting pimples on the face. Now the next one is facial hair. You might have seen, or the boys might have observed the changes in themselves, that they start growing the facial hair. Now next is shoulders get wider, so the broadness of the shoulders take place. Then hair under the arms there is the formation of the hairs. Then pubic hairs in the genital portions also the hairs growth start. Then penis gets longer and wider and testes gets larger. So when the reproduction has to take place, so the penis, which is the male reproductive part of a human being, so that gets wider and the testes gets larger. Testes gets larger because there the sperm's production start. Now neck, chest and leg muscle gets bigger and stronger. Now if we compare the female during the changes of female during the adolescent stage, it is that the whole body gets curved. You can see the shape of this female, that the body is curved. Now skin gets oilier. It is the common feature in male also and in female also. Now the hair under the arms, this is also the common characteristics between the male and the female, that they develop hair under the arms. Then the one most important change which occurs in the female at the adolescent stages, that the breast starts to develop. There is the enlargement of breast in the female. Why? Because the reproductive parts mature, and when the reproductive parts mature, so the breast is ready for the milk secretion. Now next is hip bones wider, means it becomes broader. Pubic hairs develop, weight gain on hips, then leg muscles get bigger and stronger. So these are the changes which occurs during the adolescence age. And due to these changes, a person is capable to take part in the process of reproduction. Now we will study that why sexual reproduction takes place during puberty. Puberty adolescent stage is also known as the puberty stage. So why this sexual reproduction takes place only during puberty? Because there are various cells present in our body which perform various functions at a particular time or period. We all know that our body is made up of cells. So there are various cells which are present in our body, and each cell is capable of performing the different functions. So at what time which cell has to perform a particular function, that depends upon the body growth. So some cells are present in our body which perform the process of reproduction, and these cells only mature at a time when our body is preparing itself for the process of reproduction. So the cells which are responsible for the process of reproduction, they only mature when the body is preparing for itself for the process of reproductions. So those cells are the germ cells, and germ cells are the sperm in the male and egg in the female. In human beings, for the transfer of germ cell between two people need special organs so that reproduction can take place. So definitely the two human beings, that is the male as well as the female, will have the different paths, reproductive paths through which the reproduction can take place. As we have seen in the flowering parts, that male is having the different part, female is having the different part, and male is bringing the male gamete, that is the male gamete is being carried to the ovules so that the fertilization could take place. Now, for example, if we see in human beings, penis in male matures during puberty, that is, the penis becomes long, erect, and the production of sperm starts. So when the adolescent stage is being reached by the male, so penis matures, it becomes long, it becomes erect, and the production of sperm starts. Now, in female, the breast matures during puberty and ready for the secretion of milk. And also one most important thing is that the menstruation cycle starts, where every month one egg is released. So if egg is released, then only the process of reproduction will be completed. Means once egg is released, then sperm fuses with the egg, then zygote is formed. So this menstruation cycle is responsible for the reproduction to take place, and this menstruation cycle starts in girls during 12 to 13 years of age. So this was about some important characteristics which we saw in the sexual reproduction. So in the next video we will study about the reproductive parts of male as well as female.